19 years ago today, 21-year-old Maura Murray vanished. This case is so bizarre, there are so many twists and turns, and it's one that's held my interest for many, many years. On February 9th, 2004, Maura Murray supposedly crashed her car in New Hampshire. A bus driver pulled over and offered her help, which she refused, and by the time the police turned up, Maura was gone. On the day that Maura disappeared, she advised a member of staff at her university that a member of her family had died. But the bizarre thing was, nobody in Maura's family had died. At 3:15 p.m. on the day of Maura's disappearance, she was captured on CCTV visiting an ATM. And it's worth noting that she almost cleared out her bank account. She then stopped at a liquor store. Apparently she bought more than one different type of liquor. She then drove her 1996 Saturn north towards New Hampshire. Maura Murray was studying nursing at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, which is approximately a 2-hour drive away from where Maura crashed her car. Maura did not confide in anyone what she intended to do in New Hampshire. She didn't tell anybody her plans on that fateful Monday afternoon. At approximately 7:27 p.m, Faith Westmond called the police and informed them that there'd been an accident near to her house. Shortly after, a bus driver by the name of Butch Atwood drove by and spoke to Maura, and Butch asked Maura if she needed him to call the police. She declined his offer, and she said she'd already called for assistance from AAA. Because Butch was a local resident, he knew there was no cell phone reception in the area where Maura had crashed her car. So he knew that Maura couldn't possibly have already called AAA for roadside assistance. Butch Atwood lived approximately 100 yards east of the accident site. After returning home, he parked his bus and, according to one of his neighbours, sat and did some paperwork inside his bus for a number of minutes. He then goes inside his home, calls 911. The call was placed at 7:42 p.m. Butch was asked if Maura appeared injured, and Butch Atwood told the police that she appeared shaken up and that the airbags in her vehicle had deployed, but that he hadn't seen any traces of blood. The first officer arrived at the accident scene at 7:46 p.m, and by then Maura was gone. The police officer noticed that Maura had locked her car. He also saw that there was a box of red wine behind the driver's seat, and he also noticed a Coke bottle that appeared to have red liquid in it. The officer asked Butch, the bus driver, for assistance in locating Maura. A state trooper, fire and EMS also responded to the scene and obviously didn't find Maura. According to Maura's family, no one searched east of the accident scene. Maura Murray had had quite a few interesting things going on in her life, or perhaps I should say bad things, in the lead up to her disappearance. 2 days prior to Monday, the 9th of February 2004, Maura crashed her dad's car. So yes, that's 2 car crashes in 2 days. Maura's dad came to visit her that weekend, and he was staying in a motel. And on the night of Saturday, the 7th of February 2004, Maura borrowed her dad's Toyota Corolla car to go back to her university to a dorm party. After Maura left the party at approximately 3:30 in the morning, she crashed into a guardrail. Maura's father found out that his insurance would cover most of the damage to his car. Later that Sunday, he drops Maura back off at her university dorm, and that was the last time he ever saw his daughter. Not long before Maura's disappearance, she was in a lot of trouble for credit card fraud. She was told that she needed to keep her nose clean for 3 months after that incident, but when she crashed her dad's car, 3 months had not yet passed. So was Maura worried that she was going to be in a lot more trouble now that she'd had 2 car crashes in 2 days? Something else to note is that Maura had a boyfriend, but mysteriously when her room at her university was looked in, the majority of her belongings had been packed up, and on top of some boxes was a printout of an email from her boyfriend talking about infidelity. Had she planned on moving away from where she was at university? It would seem so from the boxes being packed up. So on the date of Maura's disappearance at approximately 3:30 p.m, she drove off of the university campus in her black 1996 Saturn sedan. And it's also worth noting that classes at the university had been cancelled that day because of a very bad snowstorm. At 3:40 p.m, Maura withdrew the $280 from the ATM. She's then seen, as I said before, at a liquor store buying $40 worth of alcohol. Maura was caught by CCTV cameras at the cash point or the ATM and also in the liquor store. It was somewhere between 4 and 5 p.m. when Maura left. It is presumed that she took the Interstate 91 north. So when Maura crashed her car, which was sometime after 7 p.m, a resident heard a loud thump outside her house. Through her window, she could see a car up against the snowbank. The car was apparently pointed west on the eastbound side of the road. This woman called 911 at approximately 7:27 p.m. to report the incident. Something to note about this woman's 911 call is that she claimed to have seen a man inside of Maura's car smoking a cigarette. But apparently what she actually saw was a red light glowing from inside the car, which potentially could have been from a cell phone. As I mentioned before in my video, a bus driver called Butch also stopped at the scene to check if Maura was okay. Maura said she didn't need any help because she'd already called AAA for roadside assistance. But as I said before, this guy was a local and he knew there was no cell phone coverage in the exact spot where Maura had crashed or come off of the road. So he knew she couldn't have called AAA. There are some reports that say she apparently pleaded with this guy to not call the police. Something else I found interesting is that the bus driver said he saw a few more cars past the accident scene before the police arrived. I believe he could see part of the scene from his home. There was another local resident that drove past the scene. She said she passed by at approximately 7:37 p.m. and she witnessed a police SUV parked in front of Murray's car. She pulled over in her vehicle for a short period, and while she was there she did not see anyone inside or outside of both of the cars. She then carried on with her journey back home. Did Maura walk away from the scene of the accident with the intention of ending her life? Did Maura get into somebody's car and end up coming to harm? This for me is the most plausible theory. The reason I say that is because a scent dog found Maura's scent. It went 100 metres up the road from where her car had left the road, and there were no footprints in the snow that would have shown that she'd walked off, which makes most people believe that Maura Murray did not walk away from the site of the crash. It's very possible that Maura did come to harm. Perhaps Maura really was abducted, as in late 2004, a man allegedly gave Maura Murray's father a stained and rusty knife that he said belonged to his brother. And interestingly, this guy lived less than 1 mile from where Maura's car was discovered. This guy's brother and his brother's girlfriend were apparently said to have acted very bizarrely and very strangely after Maura Murray's disappearance. The man claimed he believed the knife had been used to kill Maura, and several days after the knife was given to Maura's father, this man's brother allegedly scrapped his car, which was a Volvo. And it just continues to get more bizarre, as family members of the man who turned in the knife claimed he had made up the story in order to obtain reward money in Maura's investigation. So was it a red herring or not? So keep in mind what this guy told the police towards the end of 2004. As in October of 2006, volunteers led a 2-day search within a few miles of where Maura's car was found. And in an A-frame house approximately 1 mile or 1.6 kilometres away from where Maura's car was seen in a closet or a wardrobe. Police dogs allegedly alerted to the presence of human remains. And interestingly, this A-frame house had previously been the residence of that man that was implicated by his brother, who had given Maura's father that rusty knife. A sample of carpet from this house was then sent to the New Hampshire State Police, but interestingly, and somewhat bizarrely, the results were never released to the public. In 2019, police searched the same house again. And quite chillingly, this house was very near to where Maura's car was discovered. Just to give you a little bit more perspective, it was only 400 feet away. Unfortunately, nothing was found during this search, but interestingly, police were witnessed taking a jackhammer into the house after the Attorney General's office confirmed that it was being searched in connection with Maura's disappearance. Maura's father, Fred, did believe that Maura's remains could be located in this house. This was due to police dogs alerting to possible human remains and a radar scan that also indicated that Maura's remains could be buried under the floorboards in the basement of the house. During a press conference in 2019, the Associate Attorney General said that no evidence had been found connecting this house to Maura's case. The home had changed hands or had had new owners not long before this search, and they had very kindly agreed for the search in the basement to be carried out. Could it be that Maura's body was in that basement? Could her murderer have potentially moved her remains? I have always wondered if that is a possibility. So, going back to the theories, was she abducted and potentially killed? Or did she run away to start a new life? Now, there's definitely reason to believe that could be true. She'd been in a lot of trouble, credit card theft, she'd crashed her dad's car 2 days before she crashed her own car, and she apparently had relationship problems with her boyfriend. Perhaps all of those issues and problems just became too much for Maura to bear. Maybe she wanted a little break. Maybe she never intended to permanently go away, and then maybe she changed her mind. I hope that's what happened, because that theory has the best outcome, which would be Maura still being alive. It has been claimed by a few different people that if Maura was going to start a new life, perhaps she was heading to Canada. A couple of other things to note here. She'd apparently received a phone call from one of her sisters, and she was visibly upset after the call, and there is more than one story floating around as to what was said during the call. I'm not going to go into all of the different info that's floating around on the internet because I don't know what was said, but she was visibly upset after the phone call with her sister. But what is known is that she'd made internet searches looking for accommodation in New Hampshire. She hadn't booked any accommodation, but that could prove that she was making plans for the future. Or, looking at it from a sinister point of view, perhaps a dark point of view, was she looking to book accommodation, maybe a motel or a hotel, to ultimately end her life in? One more thing that I would like to point out is that according to Maura Murray's boyfriend, he received a call and missed it the day after she disappeared on February the 10th, 2004. In this short voicemail, a female could be heard crying, whimpering, and shivering. She was apparently intoxicated, or had at least been drinking, and was she stuck somewhere unable to move, shivering and dying, and left this heart-wrenching message on her boyfriend's answer phone. The disappearance of Maura Murray certainly has baffled me for many, many years. It's a case that I've followed for a very long time, and I really hope that Maura is out there alive. Maybe she really did want to set off for a better life. So guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on Maura's case. Is it a case that you've followed for many years, or is it a case you've never heard of before? What do you really think happened to Maura? Please pop me a comment below, and as always, I'll look forward to reading your views. Bye for now.